All right, welcome everybody to Flagship Digital Insights with myself, Ben Taylor, and today's guest is David Thompson on Yachting International Radio. David, if you could just introduce yourself and what we're going to talk about, that would be brilliant.
Yeah, hi everybody. Hi Ben. My name is David Thompson. I work for a big software company called Aviva, based in UK. Amongst other things, we do shipbuilding software, which is why I'm, in the industry generally. But I'm here today because I'm also an advisor for something called the VR AR Association, and we're seeing a lot of demand for VR being used in different ways in the yachting industry. So I'm here to have a chat about how it's used today and maybe where it's going. So away from the sort of traditional design use case into more events and connecting people around the sales process.
Right, okay, cool. So let's start with design processes. So this isn't quite so new. I feel like it's been over the last few years. It started to develop
Yeah, it's
and have huge use cases.
yeah.
But what's kind of happening in that space at this point?
Yeah, like you say, so it's something that's become quite quickly established in the design process. So either the shipyard wants to communicate how the build's going with an owner's representative, or in the earlier phases, the designer wants to communicate some of the concepts to a client. So I think that's become business as usual, as you said. The thing that's kind of changed is the use of VR used to be come to my office and we'll put you in the VR goggles and you'll have a look at the boat. But now, because people can't necessarily do that, the whole concept of multiplayer has become really important. So can the designer be at their home, inside the yacht, while the client, gets sent a VR headset or something? So this is what's happened. What we're seeing, that the whole industry's had to quickly get those multiplayer solutions working, which of course it's more fun.
Yeah, because it's just a little bit social. I mean, I feel like the
Yeah,
biggest challenge to technology solutions right now, especially in replacement of the person-to-person interactions, I think the biggest challenge is the social element, right? And so
yeah.
having two people in a room is a very different consumer experience or sales process to just having the customer in, or just for administration purposes as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's, I mean, all that technology, I think you've mentioned it in a previous episode, is coming from gaming. You look at multiplayer games, how people collaborate. And I think it's a great thing that people are learning to do these things, very collaboratively. And of course, in the design phase where the physical vessel doesn't yet exist, then you don't really have another choice. So I think it's generally a good thing that we've been forced to sort of figure out these multi-user collaborative scenarios.
Yeah, and I think it's definitely an exciting time for the VR and AR space, just because so many things need to come together and align for this technology to be really great in terms of the value it provides. Because you got things like people using technology, how tech savvy are they, especially in with the industry like yachting, which is dominated by the more older population who aren't necessarily as tech savvy as the young people in our world today. But also things like COVID, I'm not saying it too much, has pressed it on forward and just said absolutely no physical meetings will happen, or very rarely, especially internationally. And so it's really pushed the technology forward. And one of the things I suppose we've already touched on is having multiple people in a room, but then actually going even further and having social events happening. Could you just go a bit more into how those kind of
Sure.
work and what's possible?
Yeah, that's the really interesting thing. So I think before the COVID lockdowns, people were trying to do, meetings, in VR where you had maybe 6 or 7 people. The typical, software development sprint meeting was something that was quite an obvious thing. But since March, I personally joined a group called Zero Event, where people were saying, all right, Cannes Film Festival cancelled. Burning Man cancelled. How can we put hundreds of people into a space and recreate some of this, serendipitous kind of meetings that you have in these big spaces? So yeah, the industry is had this massive shove in this direction, where all these companies that were, some of them were kind of been going bankrupt, but now they're getting a lot of investment. The whole of digital event space, you'll know, is just getting a lot of investment just now. So yeah, basically what's happening is all these platforms are getting more mature, they're getting easier to use. People are learning that they exist and they're out there. Um, and the other thing that's a really big change is that, of course, not everybody's got their VR headset. Quite a few people have bought these things recently. Um, but the whole industry making these basically social event spaces has enabled all the functionality for desktop users or even people using an iPad or phone. So these days you can get yourself virtually into an event space very easily. Sometimes there's not even an app to download. It'll run on everybody's notebook, laptop, and even if you don't have your headset, you can have some kind of virtual experience where you'll partially feel like you're in a room where you can look around, where you can interact with other avatars. So the real people are behind those avatars, of course. And I think that's the interesting thing. So people are meeting in these spaces and starting to say, okay, this is interesting. This is different from a Zoom meeting. And you can have different conversations going on in these spaces at the same time because of the spatial audio. So that's really interesting, and it's really taking off in general for the events industry.
Yeah. So with these events, I think the key part is engagement, and how engaged and immersed the user is in that event. Because so far in the industry, we've seen a lot of virtual boat shows, good attempts, bad attempts, all sorts, and everything in between. But with VR in these rooms, they are very, very close to what would be a social venue or an event, because it feels like you are in a room with those people, and it's so close to the normal human to human, face to face interaction. I think people are very quick to jump to, well, it's not as good as face to face. And I think I don't think it ever will be, to be honest,
No.
because it's just human nature and we're social animals. But it's a very good option number two, or kind of best case out, just past the face to face.
Yeah.
And with what's happening, I mean, how many choices do you have? It's
Yeah, that's the thing.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
it's
yeah.
yeah. Sorry, I just gonna say it's exactly that. I think everybody's initial reaction, or a large proportion of the population, will just kind of say, "Whoa, this is weird. It's not the real thing." But now, as you said before, because of COVID lockdowns, people are saying, well, maybe it's worth thinking about this a bit more. And as you said, it's all about engagement. So you've got, websites on the one hand. It's a self-service, you know, digital book, if you like. You can look at pictures, you can browse through text. And on the other end of the world, you've got Monaco Boat Show, or, a retail outlet where you can go there, you can meet people. And I think what's happening just now is you've got web technology, gaming technology coming together, and AR and VR technology coming together in the middle, providing these spaces where people can interact with real people. So it's not a single player experience like a website. So you can be there with other people, a yacht broker, the designer, really important people in the process of buying a yacht or finding out more about a yacht. And that's the really interesting thing. So it's about having real human beings with all our skills and our knowledge in these digital spaces with other people who need knowledge, and facilitating that exchange. So really interesting times.
Yeah, so I didn't know about this technology 6 months ago. I think it's suddenly come across my path, and seen the potentials there. And I also think, just for industry, it's switched from a pandemic being a very short term and a short term having short term impacts. And now it's quite obvious it's very much becoming more of a long term thing where these solutions and technologies can actually catch up to accommodate for the challenges that the industry faces.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think it's an important sort of phase of adoption. So there's experimentation going on just now. There's a lot of creativity, and I think that the major thing that's changed is just people's appetite for this. So a lot of people, even when we go back to that design phase where you're saying like, come and look at your yacht in VR, which is a very obvious thing because you get a feeling for it. Even then, a lot of people would say, no, I don't want to do that. But now people are just that much more open to it. So we're in this phase of creativity. But I think, even when physical events come back, people might keep this kind of middle ground of social digital experiences or whatever we want to call them, because there'll be great physical events going on, but not everybody will be able to make it to those. Either they can't, don't have the time, or they can't make it to that location, or there may be travel restrictions. So having this virtual middle ground, I think, will just be in parallel and run in parallel with these physical events in the future.
Yeah, and the hybrid thing is something I've talked about quite a lot. There was a recent episode with Ben Martin, who's an architect, and we talk a bit about the hybrid space and what's going on with esports and things like that. But David, I believe you've got a demonstration for us. If you want to dive into that and show it off, that would be really cool.
Yeah, I will just share my screen. So I'm using something called Mozilla Hubs, which is a platform for building essentially three-dimensional web spaces. It's made by the people who make the Firefox browser. And as you can see here, you can make a variety of different rooms. I've got coffee shops, there's art galleries, there's all sorts of different environments you can create. But what I've done on this is sort of a private version of it, is I've created these more yacht orientated showrooms, just to give you an idea of how the technology can be used for this particular industry. All right. So as you can see here, this is loading on my browser. I'm using this on a kind of small netbook, and this is three-dimensional. And the second interesting thing is, as you can see here, so I'm just going to go full screen, that I can enter into this space with an avatar. So I've then got this element of agency. So I've got my ability to go to where I want to look at the things that I want to look at. So as you can see here, it's very good for presenting high resolution images. I've borrowed these from the Blue Game website, but as we kind of mentioned before, the most interesting thing about this is that other people can join this room. So up to about 30 people can join the room. I will see their avatars in here, and it works like a Zoom meeting. So I can hear their audio, I can see where they move, and even so, this is obviously non-VR mode. So even without a VR headset, I've got some tools in here. So I've got a kind of marker. So I might want to, highlight the storage options in this room, for example. We can bring in 360 photographs, 360 videos even into this space, normal videos. But the kind of thing that's really not possible when we do this on a 2D website is that kind of 3D stuff. So this is actually a scan that I've created from my phone of this vessel at the Düsseldorf Boat Show. So I can pick up this 3D model here, and I can make it bigger. So I can make it full size effectively, or I can use my little Iron Man that I've got here, and put that Iron Man into the room. If you bear with me. So that Iron Man at the moment is pinned, so we can get a sense of scale. So I've gone and changed the scale of the room, which doesn't help. So these are the kind of things that you can do when you think 3D. So there's kind of two elements here. So first is it's a web page, so it's easy to access. Anybody can jump on it from any device. Second, it's a three-dimensional space, so I can do things like move a 3D model around, um, bring in the conceptual design, for example, of the model. And then the third thing is it's a social space. So it's a combination of all these things. If you like the web technology, so it's easy to access on the cloud. 3D, so we can look at things in a different way, even on our 2D screens. And then the third part is the social. So it's this kind of mashup of all these technologies that we know and that have exploded over the years. And as you can see here, it's very possible to make quite nice thematic environments. This is Antigua somewhere, quite a nice place. And we could even do things like take a 3D model of a boat and put it down there, on the water to see what it looks like. So it's just all of these new capabilities brought together into one environment. So the other thing I wanted to show you here is the 3D 360 images. I could actually make my avatar tiny and be inside the 360 image. So yeah, really just a huge kind of sandbox for people to build environments to engage with their customers. So I think there's really a lot of potential for the industry to use these tools.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it becomes a showroom that that will remain accessible no matter what's going on.
This is the other thing, yeah. So it's a persistent showroom, and I love to talk about this in terms of digital real estate. So this real estate probably cost me a few pence, per month, and because it's digital, what I can do is I can copy this room, and I could create a room for each person. So this could be, the Ben Taylor showroom. Everything we discuss in here, we can put in here, notes, screenshots of things, sketches. You can just put them up on the walls, and they will stay there forever. So that's the other interesting aspect of this. The other thing is that you can, if you run it on a bigger infrastructure, so it's a cloud-based solution. If you basically put it on a really big server, you can run events with up to, I think it's 1,200 people. Not in the same room at the same time. So you need to kind of split it up and put them in different rooms. But the industry could use these, and what I'm personally seeing is, you mentioned it before, kind of hybrid events. So you have a website where you might have a panel discussion between industry experts, normal webcam kind of webinar style, but then you might have your little kind of immersive 3D fringe kind of events which you hold in rooms like this. And of course the rooms can look like anything you want. It could be on the harbor side, it could be inside a big warehouse if you want that boat show feeling. So I think that's the really interesting potential for this, and I'd love to see the yachting industry adopt this. This is just one example. I think the web, social, and 3D coming together is a particularly powerful combination. But of course, it could be PC VR that you need to run on a big gaming machine. There's all these different combinations of the technology, but web, of course, just is the most accessible.
Yeah, I think with it becoming so accessible and also scalable, I think it opens up from a kind of temporary or potentially temporary digital showroom into something that could be a hybrid showroom long term, or even just solid, reliable digital infrastructure, as you said, for forever as a permanent solution. But then also scaling up to kind of 1,200 people, that's starting to become boat show space, and where each company could have their own little area, and it becomes very, very similar to an actual boat show, just in a digital space. I mean, absolutely, it'll be so interesting how the industry takes to technology like this,
Yeah.
and which organisations really say, hey, that's good, that's the future, and get involved. And what they could create or come up with would be amazing to see.
Yeah, I think it's going to happen pretty quickly. I've got my own personal story with this. So at Aviva, which is a 5,000 person tech company, it's relatively conservative because we've been around for 50 years. But we recently created a digital twin of our basically our kind of customer experience center in London. So we've got a very nice office where we bring VIPs, and it's been closed since March. It's going to be closed till next year. So our executive said we need to find a digital alternative to that, and they approved this project, and we launched this a few weeks ago. So and I never would have dreamt that 1 year ago. But the salespeople, they can't meet their customers, so they said we need a place to meet our customers. And the head of sales was saying things like, sales has changed forever, and I, to see my company adopt that so quickly is quite encouraging, I think, to for general digital transformation of industries.
Where do you see who do you think will adopt it quick enough? Do you think it will be on the level of individual salespeople and yacht brokers? Do you think it will be their company, so a collection of yacht brokers could use it, or do you think it will be more the show level and show organizers?
Good question. I think the interesting thing is it could potentially change the game. So previously, you need to have a huge organization to run an event or a show, and now, as you said, it could be a collection of yacht brokers with a very specific set of skills or experience or type of vessels, and they can set this up themselves. So I think this is this disruptive thing that you might see the big events companies adopt this technology, but they'll probably do it in a very professional way, in a very process-oriented way, looking at how they used to do things. And they'll bring all that good experience of running real events, but potentially, a two-man company can take this technology and do something quite disruptive. So yeah, I think now now that your audience know about this technology, we'll see what happens. I think it's going to be very interesting to see how people use this technology. I saw that you mentioned Super Yacht Times 3D, which looks very interesting. It could be the same technology. We don't know.
Yeah, and there's a few boat shows coming up. The Balearic Boat Show is at the very least claiming to have a very different approach to the digital boat shows we've seen. There's actually an interview with those organizers coming up in a few weeks. But for sure, yeah, I mean the season is currently transitioning into the Caribbean. Quite a lot of brokerages have actually had a very good year in terms of boat sales. Certainly Fraser Yachts has, and amongst others. So I think it's prime time, a bit of now or never, maybe. Maybe it's one of those things that separates a company to continue pressing on with their marketing and getting those sales. And quite a few companies I'm coming across, they've had the pipeline sales that has lasted throughout the start of things going wrong, and then by this point it's a bit more like that's decreased significantly, and now we need to look at the more long-term solution of how to generate and engage customers. And
yeah,
technologies like this, I mean, the opportunities right there in front of them, really.
Yeah, I think like you said, people are just looking for ways to engage digitally, and this is a great example of how you can go beyond the 2D website, beyond the the Matterport scans. I think it's going to be interesting because this is an example of sort of three technologies coming together: 3D, web, and social. And what we're seeing in the VRAR Association is that the key is going to be who can combine those technologies together in the best possible way. So, for example, the automotive industry do beautiful, real-time renderings of their cars, which you're now even finding on their website configurators. So, You know, that's where the technology comes together. So website, but using a powerful, you know, rendering engine, so you get beautiful, you know, almost photorealistic image of your car, even though it's not built yet, that you can see just on a website is a good example. Or how, for example, you know, people who are experienced at doing physical events might want to combine with people who can do the tech side of things. So you might have people, you know, are very good at networking people together, joining the right people together, you know, putting the right person in right in front of the right person, but they'll need to collaborate with the people who can do the digital platforms, because that's going to be the best experience at the end of the day when you go into one of these um, hubs, as they called, or digital spaces. It's only interesting if the people that you want to speak to are in there, and that's, for me, that's the hard part. It's quite easy to build a website like this, but we need people who can put the right people in there, um, effectively make sure that the right interactions happen. And this is something I've personally been learning. It's quite hard to get people in. You have to think about the design of the room. You have to think about, you have to be a very good host, a digital host. And you know, as a digital broadcaster, it's a different skill. So I think that's where it gets interesting, is the people, and that's you know, I'm a people person, so it's about how the people interact in these spaces that's going to be important.
Yeah, I think with certainly in yachting, the people is going to be a key element. But absolutely, I think quite a lot of companies are very open to the collaboration at this point. I think everyone understands that everyone's facing difficulty, or a vast majority is. And so it's now a new combination of assets and collaborations that really work and help business take place. So yeah, absolutely an interesting thing. And thank you so much, David, for doing the demo. It does show off the technology really clearly, and hopefully opens people's minds to, hey, this is what's out there. This is now. This isn't 5 years time.
Yeah.
It's there.
Yeah, that's it. Go out there and discover it for yourself. And yeah, there are people out there like Ben to help you understand how to get the best out of it.
Yeah, right. Okay. Thank you so much for coming on, David. You've been listening to Flagship Digital Insights with myself, Ben Taylor, on Yachting International Radio. David Thompson has been your guest today. Thanks again, David, and bye, everyone, for now.
Very welcome. Bye-bye.